Hello and welcome to my channel. You are the one where we talk all things law of assumption to help with your manifesting journey. And today and all this week we are talking about love and relationships. And in this video I wanted to talk about how the fantasy is real. The love story that you are conjuring up in your imagination, that is real. And we are going to talk about what happens after we come up with that love story and why it doesn't always show up in reality, but it can. And that's what we're talking about today, so stick around. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Hedley Derenzie. I am a qualified life coach and author specializing in the law of assumption as originally taught by the great American mystic Neville Goddard. It is the stories that we tell that create our reality. So if you want to change any part of your reality, including your relationships, then you have to start by changing the story first. And if you want to create the most amazing reality, including the most amazing relationship, then it helps to know how to tell the most amazing stories and hold them long enough for your reality to catch up. And that's where these teachings can help, and that is why I am here. I want to help you to tell the most amazing stories that you can possibly imagine for yourself and then hold them long enough for your reality to catch up. If you would like support with this, I am available for one-to-one law of assumption coaching. I also have a free 21-day set yourself up with the ultimate self-concept course, which is the ultimate story you want to be telling. And I am on Instagram. You'll find all of those details in the box below this video or at my website, youaretheone.com.au. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, today and all this week, we are talking about love, love, love. Love, love, love. In honor of my new background, which I love, although I did think that the love would be a little bit smaller, but it's actually perfect because aren't we all after big love? We all want to bring big love into our reality, and it starts with us, it starts in consciousness. So let's go back to the basics, and that is that consciousness is the one and only reality, and reality is reflecting back consciousness. And of course, what we're doing in consciousness is not something that we're always aware of, because a lot of the assumptions that we're holding that are creating our reality are in our subconscious. They've been there for a really long time and we're not aware of them. So we are flying blind. And we are especially flying blind in relationships because so many of our assumptions about relationships were formed before we were even aware of the word assumption. Basically up until about the ages of 7 and 8 is when we are absorbing those assumptions based on the events that are happening to us. And so a lot of the assumptions we're holding about love and relationships have been there a really long time. They've been embedded in subconscious, and because we can't see them, we don't even know how we inherited them. So a lot of our reality that we're experiencing, we're like, what the hell's going on? Why would I create this? I wouldn't want to create this for myself. I don't want to create pain and suffering and heartbreak for myself over and over and over. And yet often that's what we're doing. So thanks to law of assumption, it's helping us awaken to those parts of ourselves that we have been asleep to, including the assumptions about ourselves and about love and about our relationships and about the people that we are in relationships with. I haven't really been focused on love and relationships because it just hasn't been there for me. The desire hasn't been there. It hasn't been there for a year, I just realized, which is crazy, especially since so much of my life up until rediscovering the law of assumption was absolutely governed about looking and finding somebody and being in relationship and like finding that person, finding that one, blah, 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 blah. And then I come into these teachings and I realize, oh my God, I'm looking outside of myself for something that is already within me, and then they're just reflecting that back. So look, it's been a process. It is a process. It continues to be a process because as long as we're in these physical bodies, we are going to be having a physical experience. And that's the adventure that we've all signed on for. And that adventure really ramps up in intimate relationships. Now, of course, we're always manifesting, consciously or unconsciously, we are always manifesting because reality is the reflection of consciousness. So everything is a manifestation, including all of your relationships. But in particular, when it comes to love relationships and specific people, sometimes we are unconsciously manifesting those things that we don't necessarily want. So what happened for me recently after a long hiatus from being in a relationship and even really being interested in having a relationship, I met somebody who I've known for quite some time, but I recognized an attraction for this person that I was a little bit shocked by. I didn't see it coming, and there it was in the supermarket, aisle 4, and I just went bing, bright red when I bumped into them, and I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Why am I going bright red when I'm saying hello to this person that I've known for a couple of years? And what it brought my attention to was that I was attracted to this person, and it has been bringing me back into this, I guess, interest with love and relationships. We have so been taught that the fantasy and the love story that we're making up in our mind is It's fantasy, it's fiction, it's a daydream, it's whatever. You gotta be realistic. You gotta be realistic. I cannot tell you how many times I've had people tell me you gotta be realistic. All through my life, you gotta be realistic. You gotta be practical. Things don't happen the way they do in the movies. That's just a daydream. That's just a pipe dream. They're just dreams of fancy, blah, 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 blah. And what I wanted to remind you in this video is that those dreams, those fantasies, they are real. They are what is real. And then what happens is we go out into reality and reality reflects back the opposite. And then we think that reality is what's real and that those dreams or fantasies, they're make-believe, they're a waste of time, and we discard them, not realizing that you've got to stick with yourself. You can't give up on yourself just because reality hasn't reflected back your fantasy and your daydream immediately. The whole game of this experience is to marry up the invisible with the visible. So if you have a fantasy, if you have a love story, if you have a vision for yourself in love and in relationship, and then your reality is showing you the absolute opposite end of that, then you have your work cut out for you. You have to look at, okay, well, what are the assumptions that I'm holding in my subconscious that are working in opposition to this fantasy? Because if you're having a fantasy of love and relationships, if you're dreaming of a certain type of relationship and a certain type of love, and you want that more than anything, that's real. That is real. But if your reflection is showing you something else, that is what you got to work with. That's your work. That's your assignment. And that's what you have to show up to. This is the whole adventure of life, is to bring into alignment our imagination and our physical experience. The fantasy is real. Reality is just reflecting what's really going on in your subconscious. But that doesn't mean to discard the fantasy. That means you have your homework. You have work to do in order to bring those assumptions into alignment with the fantasy. So if you've got a fantasy of being in this beautiful, loving relationship, and then your reality is showing you something toxic, because you have some toxic assumptions that are running in opposition to your fantasy, that's what you've got to work with. So therefore, you have to bring those into awareness, bring the toxicity out of your subconscious, out of those dark shadows and corners in your being that you haven't been aware of, and look at them and face them and go, wow, I didn't know that I had that. Let's rewrite those into relationships are beautiful and safe and healthy, and I'm happy in relationship and I'm good at relationship. That's a really good one. If you've had a number of bad relationships, then it's possible you may have an assumption that you're no good at relationships. And then of course, you're going to have relationships show up and reflect that back, that you're no good in relationships. And so you feel like you're no good in relationships. But of course, as you know, every new reality starts with a false assumption. So once you're aware of that assumption that's running in subconscious, then you can say, hey, all right, I know that a false assumption is that I'm really good in relationships. Even though I haven't had any evidence of that in my reality, I know that in order to create a new reality, I have to hold the false assumption. So I'm going to hold this assumption that I'm great in relationships and relationships are easy, and that I'm loved and adored just the way I dream of being loved and adored, because I know if I can imagine it, then it's real and it's possible. And within the seeds of that imagining is the seed of possibility of having that desire manifested in your reality. You wouldn't have the imagining if it wasn't possible. But what we do is we discard our fantasies and daydreams as soon as reality doesn't match up with it, not realizing that that's the game, that's the adventure, that's what we've got to show up to. We have to bring our reality into alignment with our daydreams and fantasies, and the way we do that is to awaken to what is producing the current reality, and that is often a story that is completely opposite to the fantasy that we're having up here in our imagination. It's all happening within us, and you can absolutely have your ultimate dream love story that you are imagining right now, but you have to be the one who is brave enough and courageous enough to face what's currently going on and look at what are the assumptions that are creating what's currently going on, bring them to the surface, and then you rewrite them. And then you turn your attention towards the new assumptions that match up with this beautiful, loving fantasy that you've been imagining. It all starts with you. Nothing is happening outside of you. It is just reflecting back what's going on within you. But when there is a mismatch between your imagination and your reality, that is where the work is done. That is where you've got to show up to yourself. Don't just discard yourself. Don't write yourself out of the movie because it's not yet instantly aligned. That's the adventure. Bring yourself into alignment. Bring your assumptions into alignment. Do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on love. It all starts with you. Everything starts with you. It all comes back to you, and there is nothing outside of you that can give you anything that you can't first give yourself. So anyone and everyone that is showing up in your reality, including your specific person, is reflecting back the thoughts, the feelings, the assumptions that you're holding about yourself. It is all a reflection. And when you know that, when you really, really get that reality is reflecting back what's going on within you, then you can absolutely change the cause of the reflection by going in and changing the story. Because I've done it, it's working in my life. I'm speaking from experience, and I know you've experienced this too because I see the comment. You know that this is how it works. The fantasy is real, the daydream is real, the love story that you're imagining is real, and your reality is just reflecting back what's really going on in your subconscious, and that's what you got to match up with. That's the work that you got to do. So I hope that helps. Please remember, you are the amazing creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the producer, the writer, the director, and the actor in your movie. What you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you and assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. And this is my wish, my vision, and my prayer for you and for me too. Thank you so much for listening. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.